Okay, tonight's homework will be page 489, and you will need to do questions 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So again, questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and then questions 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and for tonight's homework, all you will need is your math book, and again, you will need to show your work on a piece of paper. If there's work required, make sure you're showing it. Don't just put down answers. Okay, so if I'm doing work on here, make sure you have it on your paper as well. Just to review, probability is the chance of something happening. So when we find the probability, we're finding the chance that something will occur or something will happen. Just to review real quick, when we write probability, a lot of times we'll set it up like a fraction. And the denominator at the bottom is always the total possible. So however many outcomes there are, you always write the total down on the bottom or the denominator. The top or the numerator, that is what you are trying to find. So that's the number that will always go on top. So again, just to review, the bottom is the total possible outcomes, and the top is what you are specifically trying to find. Okay? So we'll look at number 1. We'll do number 1 together, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 they're all similar. So let's look at number 1. It says 1 through 4, use the spinner shown. So in your book, you have a spinner with colors. I drew the spinner here. I put letters representing the colors. Okay, so we have red, blue, yellow, and purple on the spinner. Again, you can look in your book to see it colored in. For number 1, they want you to find the probability that you will spin a blue. The probability that you will spin a blue. So, again, going back to what we just reviewed, we need to set this up like a fraction. The bottom part of the denominator will be the total possible outcomes, and then on top is what you're trying to find. So, in this case, we are trying to find the probability of spinning a blue. So, the first thing we're going to do is we will set it up like a fraction. Okay? Now, what we need to do is we need to find the total outcomes, because that's what's going to go on the bottom. Okay? The total that we could spin on. So in order to do that, we need to count. We need to count every possible outcome that we could spin on. So if we start on the red here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 possible colors that we could spin on. So at the bottom, or the denominator, I have 8 total outcomes that I could spin on. Okay? This will be the same for 1 through 4. Because remember, this spinner is not going to change. There's going to be 8 possible outcomes no matter what they're asking us to find. So the total will not change on 1 through 4. Now, what's the probability of finding blue? This is the easy part. You just got to look at your spinner, or you can look here. How many blues are there? Okay? There's 1, 2. Okay? So there are 2 blues. Okay? I'll put B for blue. So the probability of spinning a blue would be 2/8. Okay? Now, if we wanted to reduce this, again, you can use your matrix. You can use the one in your planner. Or if you can do it in your head, you can do that as well. Okay? So, if I'm going to reduce 2/8, I'll divide by 2. How many times can 2 go into 2? That would be 1 time. And how many times can 2 go into 8? That would be 4. So, the reduced version is 1/8. So, 2/8 is the answer, and we can reduce that down to 1/4. Okay, so number 2, 3, and 4, you're going to do the exact same way on this. If the reducing is confusing you, don't worry about that. It's still the same answer. 2/8 and 1/4 is the same answer. So again, you're going to have the same outcomes for each one. and then you're going to try to find what they're asking by looking at the spinner. Okay? Now, let's go on to number 8. Okay, it says, for 8 through 12, suppose you toss a quarter and a penny. Make a tree diagram to show the possible outcomes. Okay? Okay. So, if I have a quarter and I have a penny, I'll just start with the quarter. If I flip a quarter in the air, what could I land on? I have two options. I could land on a heads, or I could land on a tails. Okay? So, if I land on a heads, what are my two possible outcomes for the penny? So if I flip a quarter and it lands on heads, what could the penny land on? Well, we have two options. The penny could land on a heads, or it could land on a tails. Okay? Same thing if I flip the quarter and it lands on a tails. I have two options for the penny. It could land on a heads, or it could land on a tails. Okay? Now over here, we're just going to show the outcomes. So if I land on a heads, I'm just going to write it here. Heads. If I land on a heads, tails, it's just a heads, tails. If I land on a tails, heads, heads. And if I land on a tails, tails, So these are all my outcomes just broken down over here. Same thing that they are here. Okay? So I can land on a heads, then I could get a heads, tails for the penny. If I landed on a tails for the quarter, I could get a heads, tails for the penny. Okay? So this is number 8. So make sure you have this down for number 8. This is what number 8 is asking you to do, to make a tree diagram to show the possible outcomes. Now, what number 9 is asking, what is the find probability of landing on one head? Okay, so landing on one head, I have one here. Okay, because I could land on a head on this outcome. I could land on a head. Let's back up. It says one head. So on this one I have head. I have two heads there. That would not work because there are two. For here I have one head, one tail, so that would work because we're looking for just one head. Here I have a tail and a heads. Again, that's one head in this outcome. That would work. And then I have a tail. There's no heads there, so that would not work. So the probability of landing on one head in my outcomes would be, first we have to count the outcomes. We have one outcome, two outcomes, three outcomes, four outcomes. Okay? So we would have 4 outcomes total, and the probability of landing on one head would be, I have one here and one here. So that would be 2. Okay? So number 9 would be 2/4. Now, I want you to try the same thing for number 10, 11, and 12. 10 is asking you to find the probability of where you would land on 2 heads. So again, once you list your outcomes here, you can see the probability where you would land on 2 heads at one time. Okay? Is this 2 heads? 2 heads, 2 heads, 2 heads. How many are there? Then you find a probability of landing on a quarter heads and a penny tails. So a quarter head, penny tails. And then the probability of finding no heads. So how many are there where there are no heads? Okay? So again, this is the important part, making the tree diagram and then listing your outcomes over here on the side. That way you can see everything. Once you do that, you should not have too much trouble with 10, 11, and 12. We did 9 together. 9 is 2/4. So again, show your work. We did the example number 1 earlier, but you still have to do 2, 3, and 4. Okay, I just showed number 1 to you, but you also have to do 2, 3, and 4. If you need to watch it again, go ahead and watch it again. But again, complete 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay.